Not the Footy Show.
Now for Benji Marshall. Slater urgently across the ground, hangs out his right hand, going into touch, throws the pass recklessly. Oh! New Zealand try. Marshall scores. Okay, Slater, speculator. Before he hit the ground with the arm carrying the ball, Marshall got a kick in. It's been done back there at 5 feet all over the place. Stacks on the middle. Blair puts the ball down. It's on his head, so it'll be right. It's a try for New Zealand. They've won the cup. You would have to be higher. Plays the last play. Now let the party begin. The black and white ball is underway. 34-20. New Zealand. Their coach Stephen Kearney. His assistant coach Wayne Bennett have pulled off Rugby League miracle.
Not the Footy Show.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 266 of Not the Footy Show. It's a double up once again. I'm Warrick Nicolson, that's Robb Cox. I hope you gotten used to this because we've had Recruitment Whisperers episode 2, Trebojevich's to the Bulldogs. You heard it here first. And we've also got a lot of World Cup stuff coming up, Cocksmith, because that is what's happening this weekend. It's arrived. The season's barely finished for the NRL, but we have some spectacular footy coming up on the weekend. I'm looking forward to the World Cup. How about you?
A lot of our best players have jumped on birds and disappeared over to the Northern Hemisphere in the old dart, and they're about to play for their respective countries or the countries of their great grandparents' birth.
I saw a news item today that apparently Sam Walker's great uncle may have been from PNG, so they wanted to get him up there to play for them.
Get him in.
Look, last time I checked, Adrian Lamb, wasn't he from PNG and he played for Queensland? So I don't know. Why it didn't happen.
Isn't that Sam Walker's great uncle?
Okay, sorry, that was my mistake. He wore number 7 on his back. That must have been the link.
All the Queenslanders, they're close enough, up there.
But PNG do consider themselves part of Queensland because, in case you didn't know, people, it used to be part of Queensland. Do some Googling. PNG was annexed by Australia for a long time there. Numbers. I was going to talk about numbers on the back. That's why I brought up the Sam Walker thing. Because
we're going to talk about this again.
We may have covered it off, and we nailed it in the last episode, the World Cup episode. But more news has come to light. And the best part of it is that Mal Meninga had no idea it had even been agreed on. When I heard
is that true?
He didn't know. He didn't know that it had all been... Is that
true?
No. So the way the story went is that he came out saying, I just heard of it. That's not completely true. He'd heard of it after it had been decided.
No, that's BS.
He'd heard of it that had been decided. Then him and Hagen and whoever came up with the idea to, show who's been playing for Australia the longest is why they get those numbers. But what I can't get over is that when I was back at the NRL, and it's a long time ago now, people, but it was the first year that Mal got the job at the Australian team. And he sat in a press conference, and I was in the same room at NRL HQ. And he said, there's an article today that backs up what I'm about to say. He said, the number one thing I'm going to do as Australian coach is bring pride back into the jersey. It's going to be the jersey that you're going to want to wear above all jerseys in rugby league. It's going to be sacred. We're going to have things on the side that show how many test matches you've played for them to go with everything else. It's going to be the be-all and end-all. And somehow there's a memo that's come out from the Rugby League World Cup organisers a couple of years ago, and it had to have been a couple of years ago, saying, hey, people, we're probably going to do squad numbers for the World Cup, and Australia didn't pay attention. They fell asleep at the wheel because there is no way known. If they'd known this had been done, this wouldn't have been leaked to the media to basically come down hard and put all the pressure back on the World Cup organisers saying there is no way we're allowing this to happen. Because now Mal looks like an absolute goose that he wasn't across, which is basically the most important thing from an Australian point of view, which is who wears the 7 for Australia, who wears the 6, who wears the 8, who wears the 10. That are those iconic images from when we grew up, Cocksmith, of kangaroo tours. Now we're going to have, Jake Trebojevic playing on the wing. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. But every time I see a story about the numbers thing, what I think to myself is that somebody, I'm not saying who, because I don't know exactly who, but somebody within the Australian team hasn't grown a set and big enough to break the news to certain players that they won't be in their position that they
DCE
might
won't be
be
number
in.
7 if we do squad numbers per first choice team. Yep.
So we're, this woke kind of don't upset anybody attitude has now infiltrated the Kangaroos. Can you believe it? Because this is what it seems to me, is that nobody wants to break the news to certain players that they won't be in their adored jersey number. They don't want to say to DCE or somebody like him that, yeah, we know you're the incumbent, but guess what? You're no longer the best. So when we give you your squad number, it's actually going to be number 17 or number 18. That's the way it is. So suck it up, sweetheart.
But
I don't
he
get
was
it.
happy to have that conversation with Damien Cook. You're not in the World Cup squad anymore.
Well, he didn't have the conversation, did he? I mean, did he ring him?
I
don't know. Did anyone ring Damien and say, guess what, mate? You're not playing.
Look, traditions rugby league, there's some things that, we're happy to have them continue. This is just those visual things. I put a post up on a Facebook page I run called the Winfield Cup, and it was just a profile of Wally, just taking a photo from the TV, and he's got number 6 on his thing. And it was my little way of saying, this is what you remember, and it has gone absolutely nuts because people looking at it and the amount of comments. I didn't lead them with a caption or anything saying, how good are numbers on the back of the jerseys, but everyone jumped on this part. Seeing someone in their actual positional jersey is just, it's iconic. And now there's players who debut for Australia and they're going to debut in 21 and 18 and I don't know. To your point, it's just ridiculous that we've done it. We didn't stand up to the World Cup organisers in the first place and say, well, no, we're Australia, we can afford more jerseys. We'll just do it our way, which is one of the things we touched on in the last pod. But B,
it's our tradition. This is what we do.
It's like, what? How does it get to the point where they don't, as you say, just say, okay, Nathan, you're in 7, DCE, you're in 14, or DCE, you're in 7, Nathan Cleary wouldn't care as long as he's in that squad. The issue here, as you say, is would DCE be able to take the phone call? I'd hope he would be able to. But if you're not willing to do it, how do you know? You can't. I
think he would be able to. I think he would be able to handle the truth, mate. But somebody wasn't willing enough to say that. To say, guys, look, we're going to have to go with what we believe our best 17 is, and then the rest of the numbers will be made up in some kind of an order, whether it be seniority or whatever. But this is who we think our best 17 is before we go to the World Cup, and unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, that's going to have to be the numbers for the tour. We have to have tour numbers. Not our fault. Sorry about that, but instead they've gone. I don't know how true it is, but it sounds like Michael Hagan has come up with some kind of a coded, crappy system that
the first sort of time for Australia is the oldest, and
because Tedesco's our captain, he can have number 1 because he's fullback, but the rest of you are going to have a mishmash of numbers just so we don't offend anyone. But you know what they've done? They've actually probably offended everyone a little bit, which is so many times it happens with social justice warriors and snowflakes that they try not to upset anyone, but instead they just upset everyone a little bit. It's I actually thought as an organisation, the Kangaroos were stronger and bigger and better than that, but clearly I was wrong again.
We're going to get to New Zealand in a second, those listening for New Zealand content. I just want to read the first paragraph of the article that I saw come up on NRL.com like an hour ago. The headline is, Big Mal's message is clear. It's all about the Jersey boys. Only Darren Lockyer and Cameron Smith wore the green and gold more times than Mal Meninga. So when the Kangaroos coach talks about making the Australian jersey the pinnacle, his words come with authority and authenticity. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, let's move on to New Zealand, buddy, because I think
hold on a second. Let me just let me say one thing.
Go.
It only seemed appropriate for Mal to say that once he was appointed Australian coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before that, it didn't really matter all that much because he wasn't involved in it and didn't have a paycheck
what's the game done for
attached to it.
Remember that comment?
Yeah, he didn't have a paycheck attached to being the Australian coach.
I like Mal's coach. if you're going to have a figurehead, he's a pretty good figurehead. He proved that as the head guy at the Queensland team for so long. But it's like
And
you've
did such a marvellous job at the Titans as well.
still doing a marvellous job. The culture there is spectacular. But
Unbelievable.
mate, he's just fallen asleep at the wheel here, and how he's fallen asleep when he hasn't coached a game in 4 years is just beyond me. Anywho,
So, sorry, before you go any further.
sorry, Dave Hurdle. There's a plug. Yep,
If you don't coach anything for 4 years, do you still get paid?
absolutely.
Oh, really?
Well, he hasn't lost a test match in 3 years.
Okay, carry on.
New Zealand. I love their team, Cocksmith.
Mm.
Their team looks absolutely delicious, to coin my favourite word.
Yes, I agree with you.
They look spectacular coming into the World Cup. They pushed aside a Leeds Invitational team. I watched the first half, and it was men versus boys, and this Leeds team, I think, had just made the Super League Grand Final. So fair effort from New Zealand. They didn't have Manu playing, they didn't have Peliti playing. A few other guys didn't get in the field. Jerome Hughes, Dylan Brown, and they looked spectacular. This New Zealand side is the best New Zealand side I've ever seen. And they haven't even played a test match together.
Wow.
This is better than the team that won the World Cup in 2008.
Wow.
They got Australia on a day there. They just got Australia on a Billy Slater on his day when it wasn't all going to plan for Billy. And they took the opportunity and they won. And I'm including a guy like called B Marshall, who may have been instrumental in that World Cup win. And I'm not diminishing that World Cup win. I'm just telling you how much I love this New Zealand side. Because can we just go through what their best 17 is? Because it bears bringing up. Brad Arthur's a trailblazer for the New Zealand, for Michael Maguire. He's a trailblazer. Because remember when he picked Dylan Brown in the centres and you went, what is he doing?
Yep.
I can see Dylan Brown playing left centre for New Zealand in the World Cup.
Wow.
The reason for that is that you either can play Sebastian Kris at left centre and Dylan Brown and Jerome Hughes in the halves, or you can play Dylan Brown at left centre and Kieran Foran and Jerome Hughes in the halves. I know what I prefer. And that's not a criticism of Seb Kris, who looked really good the other night. It's just I want every ball player I can possibly on the field for New Zealand, because with their forward pack, which is spectacular, I've used spectacular a lot. That's the word for New Zealand's World Cup as far as I'm concerned. I haven't even mentioned Joseph Manu playing fullback. This is the team, Cocksmith, that I think they should pick in for the games that matter in the World Cup. Joseph Manu at fullback, Ronaldo Militalo, Dylan Brown, Peter Hiku, Jordan Rapana, Kieran Foran, Jerome Hughes. That's as good as what Australia will put out in this World Cup. And that's saying something.
Oh, really? Hold on.
I think it is. I think it's as good.
I'm not agreeing with you there on the backs, but go on. Let's hear their forward pack.
It's not if you don't have Dylan Brown at the centres. If you've got Sab Kris in there, it's not even a question that Australia's better. That's how much of a difference I think having 4 and at 6 makes to the New Zealand team. Forward pack is Fisher Harris, Brandon Smith, Jesse Bromwich, Kenny Bromwich, Isaiah Papali'i, Joseph Tapine, with a bench of Jared Ria-Hargraves, Nelson Asofa Solomona, Moses Leota, and then pick one of Brenton Nakora, Murata Niokore, Scott Sorensen, Isaac Liu, Seb Kris, or DWZ. The New Zealand pack is just crazy good. And I actually think that Jesse Bromwich, if he wasn't captain, wouldn't be starting if he wasn't captain. That's how good the New Zealand pack is. Their team is stacked, Cocksmith.
Their forward pack is the best forward pack at the World Cup.
By a mile.
In my mind. The interesting part is Jared and Big Nelson, if they'll maybe get into fisticuffs on the bench, sitting next to one another. But look, I agree with you about the forwards. I can't agree with the backs, mate. I can't agree with you on the backs. I think, but we all know that the big games are won usually by the forwards. So that will carry New Zealand through a long way. I just think I think Foz is as good as he is, and I was a big fan of what he did earlier on this year. I think he's, to coin a phrase, I think he's running on old legs a little bit. And Dylan Brown is not the complete player yet that he could be. I think we more than match them in the backs as Australia.
No, I didn't say we're better. Did I say we're better? I said they were equal to. I thought they were as good as Australia's backs. But anyway.
Well, I don't think they're equal to Australia.
If we had Tommy in the 3-quarter line, I'd be disagreeing. I'd have Australia on the next level. It's just I think that Adokar and Talangi, if that's what they end up going with, brings us back a notch or two to the Kiwi one. I just think you got to get Foran on the field. I think he just he's such a good ball player, especially tight, like with their players they've got around him, setting up Manu, him setting up Kenny on the left-hand side. I just really like that mix. The other option is they play Seb Chris at left centre. They can move forward into the utility role on the bench, which they might do.
I think that would be a little bit of a safer bet. But I still see a little bit of softness. When I say softness, I don't mean softness as in. I see a little bit of a soft underbelly in their backs compared to Australia's backs. I see, if you start talking about man for man and matching them up, forget about cohesion for a moment. But if you're looking at a team on paper, that's what you're looking at. And I think the team of Tedesco, the ones we said last week.
Well, it's Teddo. Teddy, Adokar, Mitchell, probably Holmes and Talangi. They're the ones that'll be there the first game, I think it is. It looks like Jack Whiten's going to be on the bench, and so is Campbell Graham, with Munster and Cleary in the halves, even though I think DCE is playing the first game.
He is, yeah. There's no Parramatta or Penrith players playing the first game.
I'm again thinking of how this goes, because the way this tournament works, everybody, is that Australia's playing New Zealand in the semi-finals if both teams win. It's unavoidable. That's what's happening. We're not going to. It's not if one team loses or finishes second in a group. It's just the way that it's been matched up is that Australia will play New Zealand in the semi-final on their side of the draw. The other teams that could make it through are Fiji, Ireland, and Lebanon on that side, and on the other side of the draw, you got Tonga, England, Samoa, PNG, Cook Islands, and Wales are the other sides. So we can't get an Australia-New Zealand final. But part of me is actually kind of happy about this. And the reason for that is that we're going to get a cracking semi-final. Sometimes finals can be disappointing, but semi-finals rarely are, because it's like, and I'm happy with this because, we're going to be tested, Australia, by, as I say, I think this is the best collection of talent that I've seen in New Zealand side ever. From my perspective.
I don't disagree with you as far as for the longest time. I think we are seeing a much stronger New Zealand side since we've seen for a long time. I think that they're definitely we've got so many Kiwis in the NRL now that of course they're and being the premier league competition in the world, they're going to improve, and they certainly have. I just think man for man, and I think man for man Australia are better, but I think I believe that not being able to play New Zealand and Australia, I think that's a little bit of a scheduling problem that the organisers have made a mistake there. I think that do you
accidentally pick a lotto ball back out of the bowl?
Oh no,
can't have that happen.
No, but if it's a draw, and if you really want to save your probably your two highest ranked teams so that they can't play in a semi-final.
Cocksmith, do you want to leave every opportunity for England to make it?
Why would I want to do that?
It is in England.
I get that, but the fact of the matter is, in my mind anyway, if England come up against either Australia or New Zealand in a final, they're going to lose by 30.
I am struggling to look at England and go, they're going to make it to the final. Tonga and Samoa's sides, they are stacked with ability. Now, do they have the legs? This is what I touched on before we sort of jumped in New Zealand. Do they have legs to match Australia and New Zealand? I don't think so. But these are very quickly put together teams, so they may not be the sides people that ultimately get picked. But this is just what I came up with the other day. And if players have popped out of the squads in the last 24 hours, I apologise. Samoa, Stephen Crichton, May, Tungo, Suali'i, To'o, Milford, Luai. That's the Samoan backline. Handy. Their forward pack.
Handy, yep.
Junior Paulo, Manu Brown, Alawai, Tulangi, Sua, and Josh Papali'i with a bench of Tapau, Tyrone May. Remember him? Spencer Lino, and then either HTF or CHT. That's a pretty good Samoan lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to, they'll be pushing right in the semi-finals for a spot in the big final. But I think they're a better team than on paper than England.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then you got Tonga's side. Can I give you Tonga's side because it's worth having them back to back? Their team. Hopewade, so Will Hopewade, Daniel Tupu, Will Penasini, Talakai, Siani Katoa, Junior Amone, Tui Lalahia, Fanua Blake, Havili, Taumalolo, Kalamatangi, Olakawatu, Kafusi, a bench of Fafita, Taukiaho, Totola, and then basically pick anybody else you want, Tessie New, Kula, or Sonny Luke. Those forward packs for both Samoa and Tonga are just beasts. They've got players on their bench that arguably are better than what we've got on our bench for Australia. Yeah,
you're right. And then, and like I say, this is the changing face of rugby league, specifically the NRL. We've got over 50% representation of Polynesian players, and this will bolster the Pacifica teams. There's no way that it can't. They're getting week in, week out. Very, very good coaching as well as great competition to play every week. So it's going to make them better. And therefore, the Samoans and Tongan teams will be better.
So they're on the same side of the draw with England, and I'm not even going to go through England because I just don't rate them. I'm being harsh, but I just don't. I don't see George Williams is their main dude in the halves, and he's good. But is he better than what else is going around on their side of the draw? No, he's not, and I don't think they're.
What does Ricky think of George?
I'll have to give him a call and find out. PNG are on this side of the draw as well. So Cook Islands and Wales. PNG will have a couple of players that you'll notice and that you'll recognise, and a couple that you won't. Obviously, Johnson, Olam, and Coates. Johnson, Olam, and Coates. Sorry. Cook Islands have a few players that are pretty good. Wales have a couple here and there. But what we're going to ultimately come down to, Cocksmith, is if Samoa beat England, then I think it means that England will have to go through Tonga in the quarters, which is not going to be easy.
No.
Who's coming through from that side of the draw? I mean, I think it's a push at the moment between Australia and New Zealand until we see them play a bit. But right now, who do you think comes out of the other side of the draw? Tonga, England, or Samoa?
It's a toss-up for me, but it's Tonga or Samoa, mate. I don't see England coming through them. I look at them on paper. I think probably Samoa are a little bit stronger, but it'll depend on injuries and whatever else happens. It's a flip of the coin for me on those two.
Samoa had the better back line, but Tonga had the superior forwards.
Yep.
World Cups, are they one in forwards or the backs? I mean, we don't see
normally World Cups are a little more flamboyant, wouldn't you say, than a grinding
I would agree with
NRL.
That. And it's also in England where the ball will be, pinged around a bit, slipperier conditions potentially, and yeah.
Well, okay. If I have to put money on it, I'd say Samoa.
Oh, I've been on Samoa the whole time. I keep looking at the pack for Tonga. They've got Fanua Blake and Taumalolo and Fafita and Taukiao and Totola and Kalamatangi and Olakawatu. Felice Kafusi might not even start. That is a cracking forward pack. But I don't trust.
It sounds like you're off Samoa.
No, but I don't trust their halves in Amoni and Lalahia. So playmaking is my concern for Tonga. So Samoa is mine. I reckon they'll play Tonga in the semi-final. I think England will get knocked out in the quarters. There you go. There's my prediction. Poor old Fiji just don't have enough players available for them this tournament. They also play Australia first up.
Tell me, did Appy get over? Did he fly?
Yeah, Appy's there, but the Sims brothers aren't. The Safidi brothers aren't. And if both those had been there, then you would have given Fiji a chance at maybe upsetting New Zealand or Australia in the quarters. But unlikely.
I can't believe Ashton didn't. I can't believe Ashton didn't get there. I saw him the other week. Did I tell you?
No, it was Corbin. Corbin, I think, might be. It's hard. There's a lot of differing places of who's actually in the squads, and even though they've done this amazing, give everyone a number because that way you'll have your identifiable number the whole tournament. I don't even know who's in the squads properly. So
no Tariq,
no Tarek, and as I said, no Safidi brothers. So yeah, it's going to be a tough slog for Fiji. I don't think we've missed anybody, Cocksmith. I think that's a pretty good summation of where we think. But let's go on the record now because it's the first week of the World Cup this weekend. Who's getting through the semi-final, Australia or New Zealand?
Australia. I'm not even being green and gold about that, mate. I just see a bit more class in that team. Australia.
Yeah,
by how many? You were about to say?
No. You just told me Australia's going through. I'm with you. I want to make a massive case for New Zealand. I think I have, but Australia still have Teddy. They've still got Mitchell. They've got DCE if he plays. They've got Cleary if he plays. They've got Munster. They've got a good enough forward pack. That's where New Zealand will get us if they do get us, is that they might, own us up front, which is my big concern.
Yeah.
But
that's where we're softest.
Pressure. Do I trust the playmakers for Australia more than New Zealand? Yes, I do. And that's why I'll go for Australia. So Australia Samoa is both our World Cup finals, and I don't take any surprise in saying we're both taking Australia to win the whole thing, correct?
Correct.
Indeed. Well, everybody, that's 266. You got 2 podcasts in one day once again, if I release them in the same day. Cocksmith, any last comments? We've got 2 games to kick off the World Cup. I think it's England-Samoa overnight, Saturday night, and then Australia-Fiji, I think, the next morning.
Look, mate, I'll be watching the Australia game for sure, as promised. And just earlier on, when you said that you don't think we missed anybody, I don't think we did, especially in the last episode where we just stuck it right into Seabold. I think it was fantastic. So we didn't miss anybody.
You didn't hear what we said in between podcasts either.
No, and you won't.
You won't. I didn't press record, or did I press record? I can't remember. We'll speak to you soon, everybody. I've been Warrick Nicolson. That's been Robb Cox. Pleasure having your company as we've pumping up the episodes deluxe through the great month of September and now into World Cup October. So bring on the footy. 100%. Take us out, Cocksmith.
All right, mate. I'll catch you soon. Pepsi.
Off the footy show.
You've been sleeping over there?
Pepsi.